In the Wrath DPS department, the players are represented by two separate yet equal groups: the DPS dealers and the people who make tier lists for a living.
In this episode, we'll investigate the high-profile case of my botched DPS list of Wotlk Phase 3. This is a tale of missteps and miscalculations set against the ominous backdrops of TOC and Onyxia. Our story begins with a grave offense, a published DPS list with some key errors leading thousands of dedicated gamers astray. Armed with fresh and never-before-seen Warcraft logs data and driven by my own personal quest for redemption from my infamous world-first push, I'm on a mission to correct the record. Join me on this self-exploratory journey as we expose the hidden truths of DPS charts, rectify past mistakes, and reveal the true champions of destruction in Phase 3. Okay, so that was fun, but I just got done raiding 3 different Trial of the Crusader raids. I healed on my Priest, I healed on my Paladin, and I healed on my Druid. With all my experience, I wanted to talk about which classes feel like they're really putting out the highest damage right now compared to my last DPS list. So let's jump into number 10 with Boomkin. Maybe I'm biased because I just got my Suffering's End, but I've moved Boomkin from 15 to 10 on my DPS rankings now. My own experience, as well as the Warcraft logs data, puts Boomkin around the middle of the pack. That being said, the utility is a straight 10. It could be the progression talking, but it feels like the fights are just long enough that Innervate really makes a difference for your healers. Also, since everybody wants to complete the raid with 0 wipes, it feels like battle res is way more important than ever. Plus, being able to swap to Resto Druid makes Twin Valkyrs one of the freest bosses in the game. At number 9, I put Shadow Priest. Previously, I had Shadow Priest at 14, and I can admit I made a mistake. There have been more than a few moments where they've been topping the meters in TOC this week, and their multi-dotting on fights like Northrend Beast is amazing. Shadow Priests still don't have a flashy tier 9 set bonus like other classes, but I definitely underestimated their relevance on some fights like Anubarak for healing their group. Plus, they're far and away the hardest to find DPS for raids, which makes them extremely desirable. At number 8, we have Ret Paladins. Everything they bring to the table is useful throughout the raid, like their hand of protection, their stun, their DSAC, but Rets are also doing really well on the meters too. In our third split, the Ret Paladin was consistently in the top 6 or 7 DPS, pumping out that single target damage and the AoE damage as well. Things only look to get better with their new weapon and Death's Verdict as well. That thing is like Darkmoon card greatness times 2. At number 7, we have Fury Warriors. We all saw Fury Warriors ramping up in TOC, but right out of the gate, they're 3 places better than I expected. Sure, right now in the logs, they're lagging behind other melee like Death Knights, but Warriors really do scale well with the new armor penetration gear. You can't forget their 4-set bonus either with the 5% crit bonus for Slam and Heroic Strike. They've also got unexpected utility on some fights like Faction Champions. I mean, their fear makes the pull way easier. I'm also excited for the 2 dual blade butcher weapons, which are like Volderthar but better, especially if you can toss some epic armor penetration gems into the gem slots. At number 6, we've got Feral Druid. Feral Druids have proved me incredibly wrong the first week, consistently near the top of the meters. The Warcraft logs data already puts them in the top third of damage dealers, and they're only going to scale from here. The other reason Feral Druids are so great is because everybody wants the 50 chests for tribute runs. Your guild can't have a single wipe if you want to get those epic 272 item level cloaks. Having the Innervate for your priest and the battle res for the guy who gets hit by the Yeti are things I rate really highly. Do make sure to hit the subscription button if you avoided getting hit by the Yeti this week. At number 5, we've got Combat Rogue. I did have Combat Rogues number 5 before, and I still have the number 5 now. They're consistently near the top of the meters, and they bring good things to the table like expose and tricks. You might assume their extremely high damage so far in the phase is coming from pumping AoE on fights like Faction Champions, but most guilds aren't even doing the big AoE strats yet, so there should be more room to grow in the future. At number 4, we have Fire Mage. Fire Mages are currently 3rd on the Warcraft logs data, and they'll continue to trend upwards. By the end of the phase, sims show that Fire Mages will be over 1500 DPS higher than they were in Phase 2 BIS, but I did put Fire Mages number 1 on my last tier list, and I definitely underestimated the classes ahead of them right now. We're not going to see true Fire Mage potential until the end of TOC or mid-ICC. At number 3, we have Assassination Rogues. Assassination Rogue single target damage is just so high right now, and I definitely underestimated it. They're actually so good that 6 of the top 100 damage dealers in Warcraft logs are Assassination right now. With their scaling, they're only going to be trending up too. At number 2, we have Affliction Warlocks. I had Affliction Lock 2nd on my last tier list, and they're still 2nd here. Their damage right now in the logs is completely insane, and the top 2 DPS in TOC are currently Warlocks. They should also keep improving slightly throughout the phase with upgrades like their 4-set bonus increasing your Unstable Affliction, your Corruption, and your Immolation by 10%. The only downside to Lock I've been seeing is that guilds are quick to move them to the bench for all the other trendy options like the number 1 class on this list. At number 1, we we have Unholy Death Knights. You might be aware of this already, but the world's first guild for TOC had 9 Unholy Death Knights, and I can tell you every guild is talking about how to add more Unholy DKs right now. They really excel on fights like a Nubarak, and they have solid utility, and there's really no downside to bringing more of them. Plus, over time, they're only going to get better with new items like Death's Verdict. But we really can't forget their 4 set, which is absolutely huge. That'll make your Blood Plague crit from critical strikes. That set bonus is so good, you'll be keeping it throughout the entire endgame, since it's insane on AoE packs. Speaking of insane, Runecloth is through the roof right now. Check out my top 5 Runecloth farming spots video next to make bank.